Nom nom.
ShinRobjira.
Today we're going to be talking about the Hiya Toys Exquisite Basic Skull Devil figure from Kong Skull Island. And first up, the box! Wow! Something different! I like that! I like it a lot! Even more so, it actually feels like it's from Kong Skull Island, you know? I mean, you've got the map in the background, the aged paper look to it, you got the Skull Devil just kinda all over the box on the back and everything. It's nice, it's different, I appreciate it. Speaking of that box, right out of it, the Skull Devil will be standing just a bit over 4 inches tall. I imagine it may differ dependent on the positioning of the arms and such, but I can't see this thing shooting up another inch just because you straighten the arms out, you know? Not bad either way, I would say. Alrighty, paint and detail. Let's get it going. Paint and detail, as to be expected from Hiya, is rather exquisite. Really love how the skullish looking skin on Skull Devil over here looks. And I love that that tiny little yellow eye just about breaks up the entirety of it. It's the brightest thing on this figure. For the base color, we're going to get this darkish off gray. We're going to get a little bit of highlighting going on up here on the spine, and most of that is going to move directly into the tail. Bland on paint, but grand on detail, I would say. My only major complaint with the top side of this figure mostly being, I feel like these white highlights for the spine should have been just a little bit more prominent. Granted, yes, it is there, and it does look nice. It's just in comparison to how Skull Devil looked in the movie, or Ramanok, whatever the hell its other name was. Yeah, there was just a bit more white going on up there. But hey, the paint that is there is nice, the detailing is fantastic, and then we have the underside of the figure, which starts out a little bland, and then we get a little splash of color over here. This color, coupled with all of the lovely detail work that's going on, not to mention this rather nice brown outlining of paint, really just makes the absolute fit of this figure all the better. There won't be much color to really look at on the opposite sides of the arms over here, but we'll talk more about that in a sec. Moving throughout the underside of the body, that greenish color does somewhat fade. It does return in little blips on the tail over here. That's something you really kind of need to look at. It might not seem like it at first, but it do be there. My god, this is just so nice. Looking at the side of the arms and forearms and hands over here, we are going to get that white that was used for the skull and the spikes over here along it. Absolutely just popping the lovely detail work going on over here. The feet are going to have a little bit of that too. Yet again, popping those lovely details. Just look at these gnarly ass feet. The toes look to be about the same color as the base color of the skin, and overall it does look like it somewhat varies per foot and per copy, just what kind of application will be on it, if any at all. Like here we definitely have a little bit more mixtures of colors going on, whereas on here there's a little bit of that going on. I'm not really all that upset about it. I mean, I only just noticed it now. But for the most part, as far as we've gone thus far, I quite like the paint job on this thing. Let's continue on. Just wanted to showcase the opposing forearm over here with all of this paint on it. Again, I really like how this looks. I just wish more of this was up top over here, just to give it a little more extra oomph. Although I do very much have to give it to Hiya Toys. Yeah. Even the hidden spikes over here are going to be painted, so there's none of that, oh, we painted it like this, so everything under there isn't going to be painted. Oh no, they positively went all out for these little nubs. This spine, I like it. And now let's take a look at the inside of the mouth. The inside of the mouth is nice and fleshy and sinewy. It just comes off dangerous and pointy and coated in slime and saliva. I mean, just look at all the detail on the tongue, even over here on the lower jaw, on the floor of the mouth, coupled with all of these friggin' teeth. Little random spooch of gold paint over here, but for the most part, everything done on the floor of this mouth is simply pristine. The roof of the mouth essentially does the same thing, except this time the teeth are gonna be gold. for whatever reason. And as you can see, the paint is kind of clumpy on this side, but the opposite side is a lot better looking. I mean, just look at how small those things are. Where other companies probably just would have ran a little brush on the inside of the mouth, giving you just a whole streak of gold paint in there, Hiya actually individually painted them. Not without error, of course, but I can't be too mad at it. Again, they're very tiny. I posted my first photo of this thing essentially saying, I quite love it, but fortunately, though, it's got nothing to do with the bendy wire tail. The bendy wire tail actually works just fine for me, and hopefully it'll work just fine for all of you who buy this, as long as you're, gentle. Like, I understand it's a toy, but, be delicate with it. The major but I was alluding to is simply that Hiya decided to do something different, and the membranes and inside of the mouth is mostly rubber. I think you can see what I'm getting at already. The membranes are starting to tear. Now, I'm going to be upfront with you. If I caused this, I would have just said, yeah, I did it. But right out of the box, that was an issue I had. I opened up the mouth and I just saw those gray little pieces, and yeah, it's a bit of a bummer. Granted, I don't think it's all too noticeable. I really do like how the membranes and everything are painted up. And I do like the fact that Hiya is trying something new, absolutely. It's just a bit of a disappointment to see the membranes of the mouth already starting to tear, which means, yeah, I'm definitely going to be treating this a lot more on the gingerly side. But hopefully for another release, or even if they just repaint this figure to look how number 10 did in GVK, this is something that can be fixed, and unfortunately it doesn't really stop there. Now, as you can see, the mouth is nice and wide open, which when it comes to a skull crawler is probably what many would like to do with this figure. It's just a little unfortunate that since this is rubber, getting the mouth nice and wide open usually doesn't lead to it staying open. The way that the rubber pieces were kind of integrated into the figure does somewhat cause the jaws to close in on themselves or not be as wide. This is yet another thing I hope Hiya can change for another production run of this thing or just the repaint. But if you find yourself trying to get the mouth to stay open wide, all I can really tell you is to just be patient, just slightly open the mouth up. You might get a little bit of kickback, but it is indeed possible to have this guy's maw just going for you. This gal's maw, I'm sorry. Skull Devil's a she. She's mom. As when checking out reviews of Oh My Godzilla and Figure Mania show, there doesn't seem to be much of a problem there, and that's good. I would prefer if I was the only one with this problem. That's okay, I'll take one for the team. Plus, not gonna lie, I was kind of toying around with the idea of getting another Skullcrawler anyway, just because we've had 4 Skullcrawler figures? There was the Defo Reel that came with Kong, there was the Playmates, there was the Bandai HG, and then there was the Leonard Skullcrawler figure, which was an actual just Skullcrawler. Believe it or not, there are differences between them.
Rosetta Stone.
Unless you read that one Monsterverse comic when Kong is a baby monkey, and they kind of just make every Skullcrawler look like Skull Devil, but anyway. The mouth and membranes is my only little issue. Everything else is painted just so very beautifully, and wouldn't you know it, I don't hate the bendy wire tail. I will, however, say that I think Rodan's bendy wire was just a bit better. It actually didn't give me any kind of resistance, and in that case, it didn't give me agita every time I tried to use it. But I've been messing around with this figure all morning and most of last night. Not an issue. No rotation on the innards of the bendy wire, no snapping or nothing like that. And it's been rather responsive. Good stuff. In terms of paint and detail, I am going to give Skull Devil 2 solid stars with a sub rating of a half a star for the membrane issue. I'm all for a fun, realistic gimmick for something, but if it impedes basic articulation like it does, I gotta draw the line somewhere. And again, I'm not upset about this, I'm just a tad bit bummed. And again, I hope I'm the only one that this affects. Again, I would gladly take one for the team for this. I can't say that that's going to be the case or not. I know at least with Figure Mania show and Oh My Godzilla, their mouths are kind of doing the same thing. I'm just glad they're not tearing like mine is. So yeah, expect a wee bit of resistance, but now let's just move fully into articulation. As already shown, the mouth can open just like that. Just be careful of those membranes. Again, it will take a little bit bit of coaxing, be patient, be gentle, and you will get the mouth to open as far as it possibly can. Wouldn't mind if you just did the whole thing without rubber and they just operated separately instead of being on a rubber piece. Either that or maybe add a little bit more rubber or something. I don't know. We do get a ball joint at the head over here, which will allow us to rotate. From this sole ball joint, we can look side to side, which is honestly a lot better than I was expecting, really. We're gonna get another ball joint over here at the neck, which, yes, will allow us to fully rotate and look side to side. Both of these joints, when used together, do give you a pretty decent directional curve, either left or right, or a combination of the two. It's good. And of course, it can look up pretty decently. It's more so down that suffers. Although if you just lean the figure forward with the arms, it'll look down as far as you want it to. Moving to the first part of the torso over here, we will have yet another ball joint. You will get a pretty dang good ab crunch over here. And just look at how these spikes over here disappear. Oh, so lovely. And they reappear just as easy. And believe it or not, you will be able to fully rotate at this ball joint right here at the torso. Very nice side to side motion over here as well. And we're essentially going to get the same thing with the two other remaining pieces over here. So you can be nice and straight Danger Noodle. You can be nice and curved Danger Noodle. You'll get a nice full curve with these Danger Noodles. And it's just really nice. It's very, very simple. Honestly, had SH Monster Arts made a Skullcrawler figure, I can't imagine it would be much different from what we got here. Save for the bendy wire in the tail. We will get a ball joint at the tail though, so we can accommodate the different curves to such an extent. Yeah, the side to side and up and down movements over here are a little bit limited. So that's why we have the bendy wire. If you don't want to take my advice, take Figure Mania Show's advice. Be very gentle with this bendy wire. I feel like as long as you take it slow and you don't treat it like an insta-bendy wire, you'll be okay. And hey, yo, look at that. If you balance the figure out correctly, you don't even need to have the tail dragging behind her. No strings, no translucent plastics holding her up. Nice. Now let's take a look at the arms. So at the shoulder blades over here, we're going to have a magnificent hinge up and a very nice hinge down. They can, of course, fully rotate all the way around. We'll get a nice little bicep swivel, which can indeed go all the way around. A magnificent double bend at the elbow over here. And as you can see, this little spike is actually part of the joint. It's attached. It's probably just molded that way. And it is rather sharp too, be careful. But it doesn't move separately. It just moves with the joint. So if you really want it to stick up and be prominent, you're going to have to bend the arm a bit like that, and it'll show itself a bit more. At the wrist, or the ankle, if you wish. I like that they actually painted it. And you will be able to bend all the way down. Don't push it any further than this or else it'll pop apart. And you will be able to bend it all the way up as well. And thank the gods, there's going to be a magnificent pivot at this foot. Oh, that way you'll be able to get nice and deep down low for an attack ready stance. Lovely. Now we are going to have a hubcap on the joint on the opposing side, and if your skeletal skedaddler figure comes with that hubcap on the outside and you find it to be rather unruly, like this for example, hubcap on the outside, we don't like that, let's change it. Do yourself a favor, grab by the joint and rotate by the joint. Grab by the joint once more and just swivel the foot around, and boom, you got the hubcap on the inside. Just so you know, and if you were wondering. Anyway, in terms of articulation, I love it. I love that I can get nice and low to the ground and make this thing look really, really vicious. And I like that we can actually have the figure standing up to such an extent with the help of this bendy wire tail and fully extending the arms. That's a solid start in terms of articulation, really. Now that that's been said, poseability? Poseability-wise, I think this figure is rather well-rounded. I really don't know what else could have possibly been done with this thing, save for maybe having it look down a little bit further. But other than that, I mean, skull crawlers are just giant danger noodles with arms or legs or whatever. I really wasn't expecting the creme de la when it came to articulation, and I personally feel I got what I paid for, and it's awesome. It's cool. I know not everybody's going to be crazy about the bendy wire or anything, rightfully so. Bendy wire tails are here nor there. But so far, the bendy wire's been holding up pretty well for me, as is everything else. Now, in discussing the price, do I think this thing was worth $50? No. This gal is a bit on the smaller side like Mothra was, and I do feel maybe around the 40 to 45 price tag would have been a bit better, because 50 does feel just a tiny bit steep just for the size. But other than that, I love the poseability. I love that you can get down low and vicious with this thing. I like that you can essentially stand it up with the help of the bendy wire tail. And overall, it's just a very fun figure to own. It feels great to finally have a Skullcrawler figure that isn't the Playmates one. And I bet Hiya Toys is going to have just so much fun with this figure and give us a number 10 repaint, please. But now we'll move over into size comparisons. Movie Monster Series, King Series, NECA, Hiya Monkey, Playmates, and IHG. Long awaited and highly anticipated, I feel Hiya Toys did a bang-up job with the brain case jogger, the skeletal skedaddler, the cranial demon. And I know some people are probably going to take issue with that of a bendy wire and what was going on with the membranes on my figure, but actually, I don't have a retort for that. That's completely valid. At this point, you're just going to have to pick and choose, because I don't think SH Monster Arts is even coming close to touching a Skullcrawler. Leave it up to fate, honestly. Maybe wait for a sale if you want, but at this point, I think this is the best we're going to get, and I don't mean that in a demeaning way, because this figure is just lovely. Just fix the rubber in the mouth, please. I've been ShinRobjira. Do so hope you all enjoyed this video, and when next we meet Mayfex Shin Ultraman and probably Flying Period Hedorah, because it's out. Yes. And hopefully I can finish with this hell behind me before that gal shows up. Until then, see you all then and there. Peace.